Hey everyone, welcome back to the another episode of Tech Talks with Santosh, and this is our 25th episode and last for the month of January. And I'm pretty excited to have Jack on the show. Hey Jack, thanks for joining us.
Hey everyone, dude! It's so exciting to be on your show, Santos. I've
Yeah.
been I've been looking forward to this ever since I had you on my show way back when. But
Uh,
yeah, Narwhal and NX loves India, so it's awesome to be out there and to talk with all of y'all. It's interesting actually. We were looking at potentially doing some downtime for our site, and it turns out we were thinking, oh, we're going to have to do this at like 3 in the morning. That's probably when we're least active. But it turns out because of all of our India users, we're actually
mhm.
most active during like the middle of the night our time. So
Wow,
it was pretty cool to see that. But yeah,
awesome.
super excited to be here, man.
Yeah, thanks for accepting the invite. I mean, I was looking forward to this from a long time, but of course, organizing this takes time. So
Of course, dude. You've been
yeah,
busy. Look at you. You've got over 700 subscribers. So cool. So
thanks a lot.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
But yeah,
uh,
to give maybe a little bit of an introduction to myself, and
yeah.
Josh, go ahead and interrupt me. I'm not looking at the chat so much, so if you see
No, no,
any
no, just go
questions,
ahead, go ahead.
go ahead. But yeah, to give some background on myself, I'm a Narwhal senior engineer right now. Before working with Narwhal, I actually was an early adopter with NX. The company I was at before was a smaller company called Swamp Fox Technologies, and for some reason they put me at the head of their front end development, and I was like, NX looks really cool, let's use it. And it turned out to be the perfect tool for our use case, which is, we were building a bunch of custom solutions for clients, and we had a lot of stuff where it was just like we were reusing the same thing, but we weren't reusing it, we were just rewriting it every time. And NX just made for the perfect platform for getting all those things together, and making things easily reusable, easy to bring enhancements from one project to another, that kind of thing. So very cool
That's
there.
good.
Yeah. And let me throw here into chat for some of the examples we'll be looking at. Oh, I see Brandon and Chow in the
Hey,
chat. That's so cool. Hey y'all.
hey Brandon, HR.
So I just
Hey.
threw into chat a link to a repo we'll be looking at. So
Mm-hmm.
this is actually a repo from my old live stream back when I was live
Mm-hmm.
coding as part of my show. And I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking of actually reprising this, but in the meantime, from doing all the stuff live coding I was doing with NX, I got kind of this neat little example application we can look at for looking at some stuff with how NX can improve your productivity. And since Brandon's in chat too, I should mention here as well. Uh, I also co-host the NX office hours. We do
Mm-hmm.
that every other Monday, and Brandon will be uh, doing an episode with the big boss Victor.
Oh,
Not next Monday, but the Monday after that. So let me throw up a little link to that so everyone can get subscribed to that. And I'm really excited to listen. I'm actually going to be on vacation, but I think I'm probably going to listen into this episode because we'll be
mm-hmm.
talking about, I believe, NX12 and all the cool stuff there. So Brandon's sweating now, but he's got this. He's totally got this, man. So
Yeah,
so yeah.
where you have shared the link? I mean, I cannot see it right now.
Oh, I'm sharing it in the YouTube
YouTube? Ah,
chat.
awesome.
Can you
Cool.
see them? I'm
Cool.
not sure that YouTube might be blocking them because I'm posting links, but I'm not sure.
Maybe. Can you just share it in private chat? I'll be able to
Yeah,
post it
let's do
again.
that.
Yeah.
Here, I'll throw. This is the link to
Mm-hmm.
the NX office hours, and for the repo we'll be using. Let me throw that over in here too. I'm going from one monitor all the way over here to the other monitor all the way over here,
Ah,
but we're doing all right.
cool. I just shared it again.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. So let's get started, Jack. And I'm really looking forward to this show with Brandon and Victor. So yeah. So the first question which I have is, let's say if I'm planning to move to NX, I mean, I have done enough migrations myself. I have actually for last my two clients I've seen actually three. We have migrated from Angular to NX. But of course, there needs to be some decisions you have to make, right? So what are those decisions, architectural decisions you will take while actually migrating to NX?
Right. So, in terms of migration, there is going to be a little bit of an initial investment into NX,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, if you're in the Angular CLI and you
Mm-hmm.
want to get the most out of NX, you're probably going to go through this process of creating, like, properly crafting what I call properly crafting your depth graph.
Mm-hmm.
Santosh, can you maybe share my screen right now? We can
Yeah,
look into
sure.
some of this. So, a lot of the times when you think about your architecture and like the decisions you
Can
need to
you,
make about
so
this.
Jack, can you share it? I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's not shared.
of course. Here we go. And voila.
Yep. Cool.
Perfect. Let me move this over. Yeah, so normally when
Mm-hmm.
we think about design decisions, I think a lot of us visualize some image of what we believe our code base to be. But
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes, if we were actually to put that into a drawing, it's seldom accurate. And as soon as you make like one decision, that whole graph is going to change, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like sort of the nature of the beast a little bit. But when moving to NX, we can
Mm-hmm.
see if I click select all here. I just ran the command in the terminal there, nx depth graph. And what
Mm-hmm.
we have here is for the example repo that I linked earlier, we can see actually this is the entirety of our architecture as defined
Mm-hmm.
by various libs. And we can see the relationships between all of them in terms of which depends on what. And actually, um, when I was in charge of front end development at Swamp Fox, what we'd often do
Mm-hmm.
is bring up the depth graph and say, okay, this is what our depth graph looks right now. Is this correct? How can we change this to make it the way we want it to be? And that really
Mm-hmm.
helped drive a lot of our architecture decisions, decision making. And since then, the depth graph has come a long way. Before, we just kind of had this kind of static image that looked like this, but now you can see as we're selecting nodes, we can see more
Mm-hmm.
information about them, we can focus them, and that will just show things it affects or is affected by. And that's super helpful for these larger projects where depth graph, the visualization can get very unmanageable very quick. But we can see here, this is actually quite manageable for just seeing how the interaction between libraries here works. So that's one of the big things. One of the big benefits you get it from moving to an
Mm-hmm.
X is the availability to like a accurate graph of your actual code base on demand. And you can make that can drive your decisions, that can provide you feedback. It can do a lot of things, and it's also, we'll see later on, we'll use the depth graph to actually improve our builds and stuff like this. So yeah, Elise says impressive visualization. I think so. Philip did a lot of the interactivity on this, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was awesome when he came out with this. So super excited to be able to show some of that off, and we'll see some even cooler stuff coming up in a little bit. But yeah, going along with that is maybe the idea of the this is something that comes up a lot on our office hours, which is,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe we could like do something, because right now we see all of these different pieces, all the different libs depending on each other, and there's always this
Right.
question of, well, maybe we could like only have half of this be dependent on something else or something like that. And that kind of leads us to this point of a lib or a project. That's kind of what each one of these nodes are here. The circles are libs, and we can see the squares are these apps.
No.
And the idea being that these represent like an atomic unit for NX in terms of determining the way the dependency graph flows. It's also, I think, a very useful like framework for us to just think about our project in terms of, because I think if you use just the Angular CLI, I think they've got more support for libraries now. It's hard for me to say. I actually haven't been in like just the regular CLI for a while, but I know when I first got started in Angular, everything was in the app module and make other ng modules inside of the project, but
Yeah.
that wasn't really represented in my folder structure. There wasn't really anything going on there aside from I was just importing them into the app module at the end of the day. So what NX really helps you do better, I think, is this module based architecture where you think, okay, what is an actual atomic unit of my project? How can I leverage that to do interesting stuff or to make things more efficient, make things better in terms of creating less dependencies or creating dependencies where I need them. If I go ahead and select all here, there's some interesting stuff in this code base too. If anyone is looking at it, in a couple of the episodes, we did something where we made like some very basic auth code. I'll just focus like backend auth here. And we can see we're actually reusing auth modules on both the backend side and the client side here, and using them across multiple projects, which was a cool little exercise. I think that could be super helpful for a lot of people as they're, trying to if you're trying to do something like we were at Swamp Fox, for example, that was super helpful. That's actually not something I see a lot of people taking advantage of in terms of my client work, working at bigger companies with Nrwl. They're more a large repo is usually one big project, which is fine. Like NX is really good for that as well. But I think being able to reuse some of these things and to be able to instantly test them or see how a change in one project affects others is very valuable. So yeah, and that kind of touches on some other things. Obviously, looking at the back end auth module here, there's back end and front end modules to this project. So we're using Angular on the front end. There's a couple apps going on. You can see there's the web client here. Let's maybe focus those real quick. And then there's and then we're using just plain Node in the back end, and there's NX Nrwl supported libraries for each of those, and we'll get to those later. But another thing I wanted to mention real quick is the extensibility of our builders and executors, which are the NX versions, the new NX versions as of NX 11 of schematics and builders. Those words don't mean a lot if you're not in the Angular community, so we tried to make them more universal for people to grasp them. But really, the only difference there is the API is a bit simpler. So a lot of it should seem really familiar to a lot of people using them, and you can get a lot of mileage out of very little code in terms of using the NX built-in executor run command, which is essentially just an NX builder that wraps up a terminal command, like you would just write on this terminal. And you can use that to build, that will make one executor for you. And you can like chain those together with our run many command and just kind of build things from there. So yeah, very cool stuff. A lot of possibilities here. I'm hoping that the visualization is inspiring some of y'all watching how we could potentially, use this in your project, how you could use this to, actually be more of an architect and less of, just a programmer, right? Because I think that's where a lot of, where we trip ourselves up a lot is in these architecture decisions. A lot of us can like make the unit tests pass, right? But getting to proper architecture that's kind of a harder thing to lick, and this gives you better tools for making better decisions in that realm. So yeah, anything else you wanted to get into on this part, Santosh?
No, I mean, of course. I mean, so one of the advantage which I have seen migrating to NX is it's clear, right? What is your reusable components? What is what your apps uses, or what your, let's say, library uses. So it's clear. But once you have a very large code base, it's pretty difficult to figure out, okay, what goes where. So
Mm-hmm.
developers sometimes actually put their code anywhere they like, and there is no clear picture. Once you start migrating them, you figure out, okay, due to this, now there is a lot of circular dependency,
Oh
which is
yeah.
really difficult to actually figure out inside a large code base, which I have seen.
Yes. Yes. One of the biggest things you have to make sure about these graphs is that they're acyclical. Because as soon as
Yeah.
they become cyclical, so if one of these nodes towards the bottom pointed back up towards the top, you're in trouble because like you've effectively removed all the good stuff you can get with NX because you're making an endless loop there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the good part about NX, it comes with linters against those kinds of circular dependencies, so you know as soon as you make them, and that gives you some more instant feedback. And trying to trace that back, the depth graph can be a really good tool for that. And obviously, if you're just sticking code anywhere, you probably don't want to do that. You probably want to put some more thought behind that. And I feel like some of these tools in NX can help keep you honest,
Yeah.
and maybe put that in the
Agreed.
proper person's hands, right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
Cool. So it actually leads to our next question, which we have. So how about creating libraries? There are multiple types of libraries which you can create in NX. It can be buildable, publishable, or it can be just library. So can we just talk a
Yeah.
little bit about it?
Let's do that. Hey, let's see if we can actually just create a library live here on
Mm-hmm.
stream. You want to try that?
Yeah, sure. Go
Cool.
ahead.
So I'm using VS Code here. For
Mm-hmm.
VS Code, we have you'll see on my plugins bar here. It's the little NX console plugin, and we can go up to generate. And when I click generate, it gives me this drop down of all the different generators now I currently have installed. We'll get to seeing how we can install more later, but we'll see if I just type in library. You'll see based on the projects I have installed so far, I could create an Angular library. This would
Okay.
if I wanted to make one, for my specifically front end.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Node library. This would be if I wanted to make something that's specifically for like something in our backend. And then the workspace library. This is more of like a vanilla library that you can, you can compile it so we can ship it out to a browser. But you can also, send it up to a Node app so you can effectively share code via a module between your client side and your backend, which is extremely nice, I find, actually, in terms of being able to keep your interfaces in sync between like changes to your back end and changes to your front end. Before getting to NX and into a scenario where both of those projects were in the same repo, I was in this kind of weird world of having to sync up my back end and my front end manually, which was terrible. Like not only in terms of like deploying them at the same time,
Yeah.
but also like, oh, I forgot to make that change that in my front end interfaces based
Yeah.
on like the change to my back end API. And yeah, this way, it's kind of like I was saying, it keeps you honest. Everything is in sync with each other, especially if you construct this properly. So let's go ahead and make an Angular library because everyone loves Angular. We'll just call this Tech Talks, the Tech Talks lib. And like go with the tools here from NX. Let's go ahead and close the sidebar real quick so we can just have some more room. You'll see there's a little terminal that opened up. What this terminal is actually doing is running a dry run of based on the form we have up here inside of the plugin. And, I'm all blown up right now. My Zoom's turned all the way off, so forgive me if it's a little cramped. But yeah, the NX console I think is also a really awesome tool. This is another thing Nrwl creates in terms of discoverability of generators. Like we saw with the dropdown, you can see all the different generators that are available to you. And also inside, once you choose a generator, you can see all the different options that you could potentially apply to this. So we talked about buildable and publishable. We just made it buildable. It's as simple as that. And if we were to scroll down and find something to make it publishable, there's an option for that. So, and yeah, publishable, we need an import path, so we got a little error there. But
Mm-hmm.
essentially, this is running dry runs for us as soon as there's changes to the form. Uh, and once we're satisfied with what we've got, we can go ahead and run that. And that will actually go through. You'll see, oh, it's going to do some interactive stuff. Let's make sure we use Sass, Santosh. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be messing with that regular CSS. And yeah, you'll see from that in our Git tab, we went ahead and modified some files, created some new
Mm-hmm.
files, and I think we're going to have to restart it. But if we cancel this and restart our depth graph, we'll be able to see instantly if we select all. There's our little Tech Talks node up
Oh.
top there, so we can see like all these tools are kind of interlocked together. Makes for a really cool experience. Makes for a very productive experience in terms of getting all the information out there and empowering. Really, just giving you as the developer all the tools you need to figure out how to properly craft your code base. So, yeah. Let me see if there's anything from my notes I wanted to mention for this part too. But yeah, I think that was mostly it. Oh, let's talk about buildable and publishable just a little
Mm-hmm.
bit because this
Yeah.
is a question we get quite a bit on the office hours. So publishable, as we were talking about, that refers to being able to publish it to a registry, like
Mm-hmm.
to npm, for example. So the idea for this would be, I think, if Brandon's still listening, I think they probably do this with NGRX because I think they're using NX now. If you want to have a publishable library, like for
Mm-hmm.
example NGRX store, you'd make that a publishable lib, and
Mm-hmm.
then your the goal for building it would be to like deploy it out to the registry in terms of getting that out there. Um, Buildable is in some ways a subset of publishable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about what you're doing with publishable, you're essentially creating a bundle from that code that you can deploy to a registry like npm so that people
Mm-hmm.
can use it inside of their code. They could drop it into their node modules. So you're not actually bringing down the source code when you're doing that. You're bringing down the bundle, which has been, ESMified and all that
Mm-hmm.
goodness so that people can just use it. And what Buildable does is it creates, by building this project, you create a similar bundle. And what that allows us to do, and we're still working on some further optimizations to this, but if we look at our depth graph, what that could do
Mm-hmm.
for us is it could essentially bring some of these nodes. It, it's hard because it's like a half measure, but we could bring some of these nodes halfway out of the depth graph so that we wouldn't have to rebuild things higher up in the chain,
Mm-hmm.
as long as like its dependencies aren't affected. So like if we look at, let's target our web client here.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if I'm trying to find a good example of this. This might be a good one. So just this random node here. If this were a
Mm-hmm.
buildable node,
Okay.
and this node over here got changed. So there's no relation between these two, other than this app it depends on both of them independently, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this one, if this lib were to change, because of the way Angular apps are set up by default, we have to build new bundles up here
Exactly.
when we build this app every time
Right.
something down below changes. If we could do something where this is properly buildable, we
Mm-hmm.
could kind of cut this out so this would have its own bundle associated with it, and then when this got changed, we'd only have to build the bundles for this app that actually changed as a result of that. So that's optimization I think Yuri's working on at the moment. Some more speeding up to our builds that we could do, but that's getting into kind of the nitty gritties of it. But yeah, hopefully that answers some questions for anyone who's confused about buildable and publishable and what the goals are for each of those. So yeah, I see some question on affected. I think we
Yeah.
we were going to get into that in our next section.
Yeah,
You want to just
exactly.
move into that right now, Sanjay?
Yes, yeah, let's discuss about it. So I'm sure this is of interest for so many developers, improving the build times, right? So
Yeah.
how NX can actually improve your build time and save your time.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the ways we could do that. Actually, let's look at our depth graph again.
Mm-hmm.
We'll let this kind of drive the conversation. So if I go ahead and select all here, let's just take something towards the bottom, like our auth utils. Let's go and
Mm-hmm.
touch a file inside of that and just see what
Okay.
happens because of that. So I'm gonna open up auth utils and source file. Let's see if I can find a better file to touch. All right, let's just uncomment like something from this interface,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we'll go ahead and we'll run instead of just NX depth graph, we'll do NxAffected depth graph.
Mm-hmm.
And what this will do is, see, there's a whole lot of red there. and the reason for this is I'm realizing now because we built this lib, it touched our our workspace.json file, which is going to turn everything red,
Oh,
unfortunately. But
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, imagine that's not there. This command here will allow you to see per
Mm-hmm.
build, and it's going to default to comparing your current Git branch with the head
Okay.
of your Git, and it's
Mm-hmm.
going to based on those two nodes, it's going to tell you, okay, these are the different nodes inside of the depth graph that have changed. So NxAffected depth graph is just a visualization for being able to see which of those things are actually affected, but we can
Mm-hmm.
also do commands like NxAffected build.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's the right one. And you can see it's going to go through and build out a lot of stuff right now, but
Uh,
it was able to tell, okay, the buildable projects that we have in our project right now. So I don't have
yeah.
a buildable lib, so these are all
Ah.
applications. It was able to identify all of these, and it's going through now and building all of those one after another. So it'll be doing that for a little bit here, but that kind of demonstrates, like, if you're watching this and you're thinking CI, you're thinking right. Like this is the power that can come along with this in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, for your CI/CD pipelines.
Yep.
These are the tools you'd need to be able to say, okay, based on this branch or this commit being merged in, what do I have to deploy now? And for this case, we need to deploy everything. But in other cases where the affected is smaller, we'll be able to only build what we need to build based on the changes from the commit. So very cool stuff there. In addition to affected, the other
Mm-hmm.
really big tool we have for improving build times. Let's see if I'm going to go ahead and kill this for now. Looks like we had some errors in there as well, but I'm just going to run NX build, which was going to build my default project, and you'll see,
Mm-hmm.
because in the previous step we went ahead and built everything. We're actually this project is hooked up to NX Cloud, which
Oh, okay.
is allowing us to cache all of the build artifacts that we've done based on the source code. So what this is doing, it's kind of like building a history of our build artifacts indexed against our source code. So instead of actually building it this time, NX was able to
Mm-hmm.
just tell, okay, I've actually already built
Mm-hmm.
artifacts based on the source code. I'm just going to pull that out of the cache this time. I think in this
Wow.
case it's my local cache that's being used because it was actually this computer. But by being hooked
Mm-hmm.
up to NX Cloud, if a friend of mine was also building this and happened to build this source code already, I could actually just pull down his build artifact or her build artifact
Mm-hmm.
directly from the cloud. And Raresh actually has an awesome video on this where he has like his brand new computer, super fast. It takes like 20 minutes to test this massive code base that he built. And then he switched over to his like really old clunker laptop and like ran the same command, and it completed instantly, which was
Wow.
really cool to see. So I don't have the link for that actually, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
send that out later on Twitter. Or,
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
I'll
let me.
just. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said I'll just add it to the description so people can refer it later on.
Oh, awesome. Sounds great, man. But yeah, that's kind of affected and
Mm-hmm.
and NX Cloud, or we refer to it as the computation cache. I have a article out on this too. I sent out on Twitter to someone who was asking him when we linked your show. So people can check that out. That the article itself is actually more of an explanation of all the mechanics, like the basic computer science mechanics to create that kind
Mm-hmm.
of computation cache. But yeah, it's a solid read if you want to go check it out. So I'm seeing some questions I was hoping
Yeah.
we were going to get
Let's.
asked
Yeah.
here too. So
Yeah. So let's
uh,
take those.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the big ones was what is the difference between affected and like computation cache or caching, and it actually took me a while to understand this at first because I was like, well, wouldn't you just be you know
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't the effect be the same? And the answer is actually no, and I'll try to demonstrate that here. So I'm going to draw out a linked list here. So this is like our main or our master branch, if you can think of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay.
And if we're a developer and we say, okay, I've got this story, let me go ahead and make a new commit based off
Mm-hmm.
that branch, and I'll push that up to GitHub. Other people can review it, and we'll go from there. And then other people review it, and I happen to make this change that doesn't affect all that much, but it made a little change, and then we end up making another small little change
Mm-hmm.
here. And so we end up having this chain of events. And if your CI is hooked up properly, you're running CI on each one of these nodes, each one of these
Mm-hmm.
pushes. But in terms of what we're checking for in terms of affected,
Mm-hmm.
we're actually like each one of these nodes is actually needs to check itself
Against
based
master.
on whether things are affected against the master, right? So in this situation, affected is, I mean, it's helping a little, but if commit number 2 or commit number 3 were a one line change on one of our libraries, we wouldn't want to run tests on everything, especially if like number 1 introduced like a fairly large sweeping change that had to test a lot of stuff. So by using the computation cache, we're actually able to like store the history
Mm-hmm.
for each one of these. It's kind of going into, I don't know, you can think of it as this little cache here. So number 1 gets hit. Number 2 is actually going to check then, well,
Oh.
if this is just a one line change, let me get everything that I've ran, like all the tests I've already ran against, and I'll just pull that from the cache instead, and I'll only run tests or builds on the actual new stuff that this actually affected. So yeah, that's a big way in where the
Oh.
computation cache can really help you there.
This is.
Well,
Yep. This is
sorry, go
awesome. I
ahead.
mean, yeah. I mean, I was just about to say this is really awesome. You explained it in just like you can teach to a 5-year-old, right? What is computational cache, and I could understand this.
Well, I don't know, man. I've got a 5-year-old. This would be a hard sell, just to get them to pay attention the whole way through. But yeah, thanks. That's high praise, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Go ahead. You.
Yeah. Well, that's really what I wanted to demonstrate. Let me see. I think
Yeah. There are a
this.
few more.
Yeah.
So
Which one
yeah.
do we want to take on next?
So let's talk about this first. Does affected E2E test works with framework like Test Cafe?
Okay. I'm not familiar with Test Cafe, so you may have to forgive me on that. I do have, however, so Affected does work with E2E Test. Let's maybe just pull up the depth graph and we'll be able to see this. I think I may have killed our depth graph. Let me just run it again. See if there it is. Let's go run it again. And whoops, I'm about to show everyone the tab with my notes. That's okay. You'll get to see that, right? But anyways, let's go to this and let's just target one of these apps just to make it a little more manageable. So let's just look at the web client for now. So we'll see actually end-to-end projects exist actually as apps. They're kind of their own distinction inside of the NX chain of things. So this is an end-to-end project that if we actually let's target the end-to-end one specifically, we can see if we target it, it actually has what's called an implicit dependency. It means most of these edges we're creating in our graph is actually being created by like the JavaScript or TypeScript imports coming between various files. So a lot of this is kind of magic, but an implicit dependency is one we're manually, an edge to this graph we're manually putting in, which we're not actually importing anything into our end-to-end application, so we kind of have to mark them manually as these implicit dependencies. And we can see, we can set for each one of our end-to-end projects the various different projects it depends on, and we can then when we run the end-to-end, we can also set it up so that the Cypress builder we're using here to run the end-to-end test. I'm using Cypress in this. I should preface with that. But the end-to-end builder will then say, okay, let's run the builder for this client or this application. Let's run the builder for this application. When they're both done, let's go ahead, launch Cypress, and then we'll be able to properly end-to-end test this thing. And we can actually do that now, I think. Let's see. I hope this doesn't fall on our face, but I'm going to go ahead. Let's use the NX console here. Let's set this aside. And we don't need this. We don't need this for the moment. I'm going to open up the NX console, and we're going to run the end-to-end builder. And I'm going to run it on this one just because I know we've got some stuff set up here. I'm actually going to run it in watch mode because this is one of the things I want to highlight. Watch mode in an NX workspace for your end-to-end test, I think, is chef's kiss. So we'll see if this works. I'm crossing my fingers right now, but what it's doing essentially is, like I said, it's going to go out and build or serve rather our Angular client. It's also going to serve our Node client. There was an error that makes me worried, but it looks like it's still going. Let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to click on our spec file. So this is Cypress knows. I configured it to know we're going to go to localhost 4200. And it looks like things are running. So this is actually end-to-end tests I've written for this. It's hardly built out, but it's like this social media site, kind of like a smaller Facebook clone. I know this is really small. Let me get this a little bigger. And actually, when I was doing the live coding for this stuff in NX, I would actually, I would be watching the Cypress serve, and I would be, as I make changes to, either my Angular code or my Node code, or if it's a shared library, it would trigger both. As I'm saving those changes, the serves are refreshing because behind the scenes, that's pretty much all it's running is the two serves concurrently. And if we go through this, we can see, I can walk through each one of the various steps I'm taking. And like coding up one of these, the way I go, this was like proper TDD, which I don't think I've ever done before in my career, where I wrote a full test suite. So like, this is all the things we're going to do. I think this was a very involved one. Like we log into one user, we add a friend, we log out from the first user, switch to the friend, accept the friend request, and then we go back to the first person and make sure like you can see them in their friends list. And so this is going through all those steps, and essentially what I was doing was just like letting the test run and walking through step by step. Okay, let's get one step further. And every now and then you'd see, oh, we actually went back a few lines. Like we actually went back a few steps. We must have done a bug there. But it was like instant verification, instant feedback in terms of, okay, maybe I need to clearly I did something wrong here. Let's see if that makes sense. Let's see if I can fix that so I can get back to working at the problem at hand. And yeah, really cool experience. I wish I could work in this workflow more, honestly, because it's a really great way to be able to work, I think. And part of the reason why I really love end-to-end tests, in terms of just like the confidence they can provide, and I think more importantly the developer experience. But yeah. And yeah, like I said, the repo's out there, so if anyone wants to try it out, go ahead. It's fun.
Cool. So let's take another question from Vijay, and then there is one from Addy. So can we use cache capability on private agents? Is that possible? Or...
I'm not sure what is meant by private agents here. Can you help me out, Santosh, maybe? Or Vijay?
So it's... Yeah, so I think what Vijay is referring to, maybe if I have my own DevOps, right? I mean, so can I use it on my own private server? Something.
Okay. Yes, I see. So in terms of like using it with the various like pipelines you could use, like internally we happen to use Azure and Circle CI for some of our internal stuff at Nrwl. But all of the stuff that we built here is kind of purposely platform agnostic when it comes to like what your pipelines are. We do have some stuff set up. Ben has done some amazing work in terms of some GitHub plugins. I think most of us are using GitHub, but there's some GitHub plugins that plug into NxCloud that will, so whenever I run a command like the build that we ran before, if I were to run that build as part of my CI, I would actually see as part of that pull request as like a comment there. A bot would come in and comment on for you. These many things passed. This one failed. These many like used builds from the cache, that kind of information. Super helpful for sharing with the team and being able to hit onto like different bugs or different errors you found inside of your PR. But that's like the one thing that's maybe targeted at a specific platform like GitHub, which is one of the more ubiquitous ones. But yeah, for CI pipelines, we provide a lot of the Lego blocks you'd need, like the affected commands and stuff like that, to help you construct the pipeline however you need to via just command line prompts. So that's kind of the goal there. And yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, I mean, so here we still have to use the NX, right? I mean, some NX server where actually the caching is happening.
Oh, so, no. Actually, so there's no server running as part of. So you'll notice, like when I was running some of these commands, let's go ahead and just cancel out of this. Like I'm running like NX build, for example, right?
Yep.
So there's no server that's running in the background. By running NX build, using NX source code as part of this command line, and this is actually if you want to find like where your local cache is, that is just located here in node modules.cache/NX. So it's all happening on the file system. No external servers running. That's where it happens. If you do want to do something where you wanted to create your own distributed cache like we did with NxCloud, I suppose you could maybe do that, but NxCloud is great, and you don't have to do any of that work for yourself. And for open source projects, it's free. For smaller side projects, it's essentially free because I think you get like 5 free hours a month, which is more than I've been able to exhaust any of my side projects. So yeah, and
Awesome.
yeah, and for larger enterprises, there's you pay per time saved, which I
Okay.
think was a really cool idea in terms of like aligning incentives in terms of we get paid when we help you
Yeah,
kind of a
exactly.
situation. So
Yep.
so yeah, no magic here, no servers, just like writing caches to disk and then
Mm-hmm.
sending that cache over the wire to the cloud if we need to in order to share it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So let's move back to our last question probably. No,
Yeah.
we have one more from chat. So Addy has this question. I don't see a lot of examples on
Addy!
using
Hey man,
on
nice to see you.
using the
Sorry.
tools folder. Yeah, just good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see the lot of examples using the tools folder. Is this where I would put my Mongoose schema and DB Connect stuff?
Typically, no, actually, Addy. Your tools direct. I don't think I'm doing anything in here. Maybe I am.
Yeah.
No, maybe not. Tools directory is if you want to do any custom schematics, they would tend to go here. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
we have a schematic to build a schematic, which is kind of neat. If I go to generate
Oh,
and schematic, there's this
oh,
Nrwl workspace schematic
okay.
that you could write. This will actually create a schematic and put it inside of that tools folder.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Okay.
want to run a builder, you would also likely put that inside of your tools
Mm-hmm.
file as well. The other thing you would use it for a lot is if you had any scripts that you were
Yeah.
writing in terms of like something to use for NX run command, like something you'd write there, like just a node script. You could put that in
Mm.
there. You could I'm trying to think of some other things. Maybe just like a short thing where you're like writing a deploy script, something like that. That's what the tools folder is intended to be used for. In terms of like Mongoose schemas, I don't really use Mongoose, but like I'll just use like the Mongo
Mm-hmm.
client directly, Eddie. So for me, these are just Narwhal workspace libraries. And that way it's just a TypeScript interface that gets shared
Mm-hmm.
across front end and back end that way.
Yeah.
Probably for the Mongo interface specifically, that would only be needed by the back end. But yeah, that would kind of be the idea there. And DB Connect stuff again, I think you'd probably put that into
Mm.
the like your node libs. So
Yeah.
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 In terms of mine specifically, Addy, I know Addy is building some cool stuff, so I want to give him some help here as much as I can, if you don't mind,
Yeah. Sure. No problem.
Zentosh. But yeah, for in terms of the like how to in my opinion how to properly set up like NX for like a full backend thing. What I have here at the bottom. Oh, that's very hard to see. Let me see if I can blow that up a little bit. Towards the bottom of my thing, I have here a backend
Back
Mongo
in.
lib. And the idea here would be, I always had in the back of my mind, maybe at some point I'll want to switch to Postgres. So the idea was always to like make this a lib that at any point in time I could kind of like switch out for a Postgres connector instead of a Mongo connector and still get like pretty much everything out of. So if that's what you're looking to do, I think that's a great way of approaching it. So
Cool.
cool.
Yeah, I have also seen people putting out the scripts which can be used in their CI/CD pipeline as well as the GitHub actions.
Hmm.
So those are the things people are doing by
Yeah.
using tools folder. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. It's cool to see what the community's been doing with this stuff. And I guess we were going to talk about plugins and builders next.
Yeah.
How are we doing
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
time? We're doing pretty good
Uh,
actually, I
yep.
think.
We are on time. We are always on time.
I thought I had the sinking feeling like, oh no, we've been talking for 2 hours already or something like that. But yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me go back to VS Code here, and let's just focus on the terminal, shall we? So we'll
Yeah. Sure.
close this out and go in here. Let's just clear it out so we can look at some stuff. Well, that looks decently good. So I'm going to run here this command nxlist. What this is going to do is show me all of the plugins. We've got so many, it can't fit on one screen anymore. This is awesome.
Yeah.
But in terms of like running this command is going to show you for the project we're in right now. Like this directory is an NX workspace. These are my currently installed plugins. So I've got Angular,
Okay.
Cypress, Jest, linter. I think this is our ES linter stuff. I'm not sure, but and then we have our Narwhal node because that's what my backend's in, and Narwhal workspace. That's kind of like the base case, right, for the base class for all this. But if I ever wanted to, I've got all these other awesome Narwhal officially supported packages. So if I wanted to do something specifically Express, I actually am using Express in my project.
Okay.
I think there's some more actual, like some more schematics and builders here that could take that to the next level. If someone prefers Nest to like raw node, that's also a really cool solution. I'm very weird, Santosh. I love Angular for the front end, and I love just plain old Node in the back end. So I'm just weird like that. I feel like if you really like Angular, you really like Nest. But
I mean,
yeah.
I was about to tell you, just move to Nest, join the gang.
Maybe, dude. I don't know. Part of me just really likes Node. Like, I don't know. That's a whole other discussion. But like for like the React folk here, we also have like a Next plugin that's really good that Jack's been working on, and I think we're going to be focusing a lot on that in the future. The Narwhal React plugin here as well. The Narwhal NX plugin. I think this one is actually if you want to build your own NX plugin. This is like the meta plugin. Which, if we can see here, there's a whole list of community plugins, and the community has just been amazing in terms of like developing some really cool different, packages, builders, and stuff for everything. Like,
Wow.
here's the Firebase one, very cool. I think Devin was on with Brandon earlier
Yeah.
this week on NX Office Hours talking about the Ionic
Capacity.
Angular
Yeah.
and capacitor stuff. So a lot of cool stuff there. The guys over at NX Plus, I think that's the right one. Did a Vue plugin that I used on stream just because I wanted to see what Vue was like. It's very cool to be able to do this stuff. Like I just wanted to like mess around with it, and I just grabbed some of these community plugins off the shelf, ran the schematics to build a new app with that, and just was like kind of hacking around with the code. It's a very cool way to get started, and a very cool way to effortlessly architecture all this stuff. Like seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter recently about, oh man, it takes so long to get your node project set up with like the proper linter, get it set up with Jest, gotta get it set up with Cypress or what have you, TypeScript even. Like those things are not trivial if you're doing them yourself. But a lot of the productivity you can get out of Narwhal is having that instantly just via one command line script, and having continued support on those going forward. So yeah, it's a really good way to offshore a lot of that pain. just let us help you with it. So yeah. And yeah, again, huge props to everyone in the community creating all this great stuff. Want to make sure I give shout outs to B-Man as well. He did our Go plugin, and NxPM. It's kind of like this NX package manager library. Very cool stuff. And I think you can get like semantic versioning out of that, a solution for that as well. So very cool stuff all around.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in case you are not aware, Beeman also runs his own channel. So in case you're interested, he has been doing a lot of amazing streams. I'll just post a link later on the description. You can go through the recordings. They are really, really great. Last time we had Nacho and Lars on the stream to talk about the Lumberjack project, which we are working on. So yep, I'll share that.
Lumberjack looks really cool. I need to watch that broadcast because it's a logger, right? For your
exactly.
Angular projects. That seems really awesome. I need to check into that when I get a chance.
Cool.
So yeah, I think that was most of what I wanted to show off. Oh, maybe one thing that we didn't show off too much here. is there's a lot of cross framework potential inside of this too that I think is just starting to get tapped. Like the same way I'm sharing resources between like Node and Angular in this example that we saw. Um, oh, there's B-Man. Hey man,
Yeah.
everyone's here. That's so cool. And Nacho's here too, man. That's so awesome. But yeah, the same way we're sharing some resources between those two with like the Narwhal workspace library, we could do
Mhm.
very similar stuff with interfaces, or even like as far as like some builder functions for like services. So
Mhm.
that you could share across your React code, your Angular code, your Vue code. I think there's a lot of potential in there
Mhm.
that I hope more people will be able to tap in the future. So yeah, lots of cool stuff for cross teams, for cross frameworks, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I had to show, Stantos. If there's more
Yeah.
questions, I'm happy to take them. But
Yeah.
yeah.
There's one question. Let's take this and then
Oh yeah,
we'll
yeah.
wrap up. So Salim has this question: is there a way to make sure affected apps work correctly in NX, especially when app grows? It's difficult to manage.
Yeah. So Salim, one thing I definitely recommend is try to keep with that idea of the atomic lib,
Mhm.
where you're building your apps modularly. Because I think
Mhm.
in terms of like making sure affected works properly, you'll get more mileage out of affected if you have a proper depth graph set up. If you're being
Mhm.
mindful about the way you're setting that up, and also. Uh, uh, I'm trying to anticipate what the problems you may be having as you get to a larger size,
Yeah.
if affected is not working properly. If you have a specific use case in mind, please open a ticket for us
Mhm.
if it's just not working in some way. But
Yeah.
I think the atomic libs is a great way in terms of like helping you build better code bases, and get more mileage out of affected commands that way as well. So
Yeah. Cool.
yeah, cool.
Great. So thanks a lot, Jack. Sorry for answering all the questions, and it was amazing. Learned a lot of things and
Dude,
something
it's
new for
amazing
me
to
as
be
well.
on the show. Thanks so much for having me. So cool.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. So yep. Next question. Something you want to promote on the channel. So please go ahead.
Yeah, 2 words: diamond hands. Let's go GameStop! Everyone hold the line. No, I'm just playing. I did write an article on that recently. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to check out my Twitter, there's an article. If you're interested in what's going on with the GameStop hold
Mm-hmm.
debacle in Wall Street, some interesting stuff there. But yeah, I already plugged it. But the upcoming NX Office Hours with
Yeah.
Brandon and Victor, that's going to be a really cool episode. Make sure if you're watching, go up and click the link and go ahead and get yourself you know signed up so that you'll get the notification when we go live with that. And yeah, I've got zackderos.dev if people want to
Mm-hmm.
check that out. I've been working on it. It's just a little side project for personal projects and content like what we're doing here. I
Mm-hmm.
actually have a link to this up on my site, and yeah, big way to just follow me is check out Twitter. Follow me on Twitter as
Yeah.
at Zach
That's.
DeRose. Yeah, there you go. Yep, there I am, Zach Diamond Hands DeRose back there. Yeah, and yeah, if this was helpful, especially if this example is repo is helpful, please let me know, because I've been considering reviving, doing the live streaming with the code and working with NX stuff, and I figured that could be fun. And if people like that kind of content, let me know, and we'll try to get that back up so we're streaming that once a week or something like that. So yeah, thanks so much again, Santosh. You're the man.
Thanks a lot for joining. So, yeah. So this was it for today. And let me just, on closing note, let me just let you know about next stream. So next week we are going to talk about the Tiger UI. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is created by Alex and Roman. And we'll be talking about the new toolkit which they have created, the UI toolkit, and I'm really excited about it. A lot of I saw the CDK and it was really interesting. I still need to try that out, but yes, it sounds interesting. In case you have some time, just go ahead and play around with it. Looks really nice, and I really like the animation stuff as well. So yep, I really excited to have Alex and Roman next week. And apart from that, my friends at NG Kerala had a conference last week, and it was really great conference. And they will be running meetups every month. So in case you are from India or anywhere in the world and you want to support some meetups, just go ahead and follow them on Twitter. And they also may need some speakers for the future. So please get connected to them or just ping me in case they are looking for any new speakers. I will just connect you to them. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Bye bye.